Hello. In this training, we're going to be going over the script framework and creating the buying pocket, cost of inactivity, etc. So this might end up being a bit of a longer video, but the goal is to walk you through the psychology of the script. And you'll hear me say these questions with a certain tone and tempo that is necessary to really drive the points home. Going through this, there's some mildly intrusive questions that, if not delivered properly, you could sound like a real jerk. So be mindful of your tone, be mindful of your voice inflection and how you can use it to convey a different character. If you need to be stern or strong, you would say something in a specific tone. If you need to be a bit more lighthearted, maybe like alter the voice inflection a little bit. Smile with your face and say something different or in a funnier tone to yourself. It's important to know tone and then your tempo. Don't go too fast, but also don't go too slow. You want to keep people engaged and know to vary your tempo throughout the script as well. Tone and tempo are the keys to this. We're going to go through it step by step. It might be a bit longer of a video here. So always on the intros, my intros are all the same, regardless of what I'm selling. Doesn't matter. Ring, ring, ring. They'll say hello. Say hello. Is this Mike? Pause. They'll answer either yes or no. Doesn't really matter what they say, unless it's hang up and then you call them back. This is Anton from Regenerative Orthopedic Associates. I understand you spent some time on our site and filled out a request for an appointment regarding your knee pain. Is that right? So we're getting accountability here from a couple different things. One is, I understand you spent some time. There's a lot of power in that. I understand that you, Mike, took your time out of your day, which is valuable, and I know that, to fill out a request for an appointment on our website. You took your time to take the initiative. This goes back to truth, fact, reality. I know you did this. And then you get compliance. You say, is that right? And they'll say, yeah, I did do that. Or no, I don't remember doing that. And then you can maybe get a little bit more accountability. But this is the first yes you're getting from them. They're admitting to the truth, fact, reality component above. They're acknowledging that they gave you their contact info for a reason. Now, this works when you get back to people quickly. If you don't get back to people quickly, you might need to give them a bit more information in regards to like the request for an appointment specifically. And know that you have about 10 to 15 seconds to get through this first intro piece here. Otherwise, you're just going to lose them. Like, they need to know who you are and why you're calling them quickly. People are guarded these days. It's very normal. If you're calling somebody during business hours, don't expect them to be nice on the phone. I don't answer calls from numbers I don't have in my phone during business hours. Usually they have to text me to get me to call them back or leave me a voicemail to get me to call them back. So if you do get somebody on the phone, know that they're probably going to be guarded. Don't let that deter you. Just get through your intro. Feel confident that you're there to help them, and you'll be able to move on to the probe and discovery phase. Now, the goal here during the probe and the discovery, this is to figure out like what's going on with them. But show empathy and see how we might be able to help them. We are not selling. We are just finding out what their problem is, if we can help them with our solutions, or if we need to send them somewhere else. So first thing we need to ask them, hey man, what's going on with your knee? How long has that been happening? And what's naturally going to happen here is people are going to ramble. And the biggest question I always get is, how do you stop people from rambling and taking 45 minutes of your day? Well, number one, like, this patient's worth $5,000 to the practice at minimum. So if it costs you 10 minutes, take the time to do it. Secondly, don't be afraid to cut them off and say politely, hold on, Mike, you mentioned something important there that I just wanted to ask you a little bit more about. And then ask them another relevant question to what they were talking about, but keep them moving along. And maybe he'll mention something along the lines of like, oh, I tried this and it didn't work. Okay, well, has anything worked for you? And move them through. Like, just keep them moving along. What you're doing is you're creating like the pocket where like they're ready to buy, where like they're emotional enough that they're ready to buy and they think that you are the solution. And then you want to ask them, is there a reason why you're looking to get this fixed right now, Mike? We are anchoring the timing. We're getting them to tell us why they want this solved right now. And This is a good time usually in the flow of the script to relate to them. Man, Mike, that sounds annoying. I can see why you're frustrated. We deal with a lot of patients who are in similar situations to you. Let me ask you, Mike, how long have you known about regenerative medicine and stem cells? We're doing a little bit of a temperature check. We're seeing where they're at in the buying process and seeing like how much education we're going to need to do before they're ready to invest a good chunk of money with us. Some bonus questions I like to ask here just to like anchor them more to us. How'd you hear about us, Mike? Did you see an ad or were you referred by a patient of ours? Even if you know the answer to this question already, it doesn't matter. We need them to anchor their trust in us internally with themselves. We need to get them to tell themselves why they want to see us. You can even ask them a deeper question. What was it about Dr. So and so that made you want to book an appointment specifically with them? And they'll anchor themselves to you even more. Next question. Is there anything that you used to be able to do that you just aren't able to do anymore because of this pain that you're in? What we're doing is we're getting the cost of inactivity out of them. We're seeing what's going to happen in the event that they do not take action. How much longer are you going to deal with this pain until you're ready to make a change? And like that's you got to be careful with your tone and your tempo there. Geez, Mike, that sounds like it's been annoying for a long time, man. How much longer are you going to let that affect you? Like really get into character to deliver that one. Um, Next one. This is like a little bit of a financial probe here. Where has this affected your ability to earn a living at all? And I would ask it like this: Man, Mike, that's annoying. What are you doing for work right now? Like, has this affected your ability to work at all? Or, geez, man, that must make it tough to go to work every day. Are you working like in an office or do you have to use your body to earn a living? Gauge like how important is this to get fixed? Next one here, we're anchoring if they're capable of making buying decisions on their own. If we were able to get you an appointment, there's like a bit of scarcity in there where like you're not even guaranteeing them anything. Mike, if I'm able to get you an appointment with Dr. So and so this week, would there be anybody else who should come to the appointment with you as like a health advocate, maybe like a spouse, partner, significant other? And they'll tell you who they would want to bring. Okay, great. We'll make sure to find a time that's convenient for you and your wife to come in together. And then don't book it right away. Like keep them hanging. Like, but now you know that information. And then also future pacing a little bit here. Granted, we were able to relieve all your pain in your joint without drugs or surgery. Would investing some money out of pocket even make sense for you right now? We're gauging their financial capabilities as a money question. It is only necessary if you doubt they are capable. If everything up to this point has led you to believe that they're financially capable, don't ask them this. But if you don't think that they are financially capable, ask them this. This is like a soft way out if you need to get out. Now, typically, I like to ask this question here. How long have you known about regenerative medicine and stem cells before I go into the blast? Now, the goal of the blast is not to sell or convince them, but just to give them enough to like give you permission to proceed, really. You're not trying to give them some long drawn out sales pitch about stem cells. They need to know the basics. They need to know that instead of cutting and removing pieces of their joint and replacing it with other pieces or screws or metal, like surgery does, we inject some natural growing things from your body into the joint. We inject some stem cells naturally produced by the body, and they regrow the tissue rather than having to cut and replace it with very little downtime and no need for months of rehab or being laid up in bed. Simple. That's what they need to know. They need to know how it works and they need to know what it saves them so that they don't have to go do something else. And then as we move on from the blast, you want to, if you still need to, tie these people down a little bit with the commitments. Now, these are usually the reasons people do or do not make a decision. Time. They don't have the time or they are not willing to invest the time. If we are able to help them, they will probably have to come into the clinic 2 to 3 times over a few months. Is that something you can commit to right now? And this is like taking the pressure off. Like, holy crap, I've only got to come in 2 to 3 times over the next few months and my joint's gone or my joint's healed, as opposed to like months of rehab. Like way better. So maybe we could reword this a bit differently. So I changed this one up a little bit. And to transition into the commitments, this is to like continue to move people into seeing if this is a right fit for them. Because these are like the big questions people have that either help them move forward or don't. Mike, granted, we are able to help you. You'll probably have to come in 2 to 3 times total over the next few months. Is that something you could commit to? Yeah. Okay, great. Patients that we've worked with that have had the most success with our programs can commit to that up front, and they know it takes a little bit of time to get this thing really dialed in for them. On knowledge, this isn't so much important with the joint pain stuff because it's like a pretty straightforward thing. Like it's your joint hurts and you generally know why it hurts. You just aren't able to find a solution. So this one isn't so much important here. Um, but in the future, if we did need to anchor it, it would be anchoring it to getting them to believe that this doctor has the knowledge needed to solve the problem for them. So you could ask him a question here, something along the lines of, granted, you knew what to do to fix your pain. Is that something you would be doing right now? Just anchor the knowledge. And what that does is it gets them to admit that they just don't know what they don't know right now. And then decision making. We've already answered this a little bit above, where we ask them the question of if they had a partner or spouse that you'd like to bring the appointment with you. Definitely an important thing to ask again, especially for older folks. They like to bring the significant other. I know my dad likes to bring my mom to his appointments, same vice versa. And it shows up a lot in women, especially for like aesthetic procedures, things like that. A lot of times financial commitment is required from both parties. So be sure to ask that. And then the big one here, um, money. I like to make sure that we mention this to people at least. Now, most of our programs range from 1,500 to 6,500 total. We do accept all major credit cards, and most of our patients decide to go that route because they can choose to either pay it off in full or just use the bank's money to buy themselves some time and pay it off over 6 months or so. Most patients experience significant relief from pain in X period of time. Depends on your program. This is an important piece here because we want to give them a range to take the pressure off so they're not just wondering and curious. And we want to make sure that they know that there are options for people. And I also like to throw this in here. Not everybody thinks of credit cards this way, but it's important to anchor that to them. Like there is a payment option that's available for everybody. Like everybody has financing options. They just don't think of their credit card that way usually. So I like to just anchor that in there. We use the bank's money to buy themselves some time and pay it off over 6 months or so. Where 6,500 over 6 months ain't that bad. Most people can do that. Most patients experience significant relief from pain in X amount of time. And then the close that I like is something like this. I like to do like an emotional thing rather than like a hard close. I like to do like a temperature check, emotional close. Now, Mike, based on everything I've gone through today, I think you'd be a great candidate. Now, you tell me, does regrowing your joint instead of cutting it and replacing it so you're able to get back to pain-free activities sound like it's more in alignment with what you want to do with your body than surgery? And he'll say, yeah, obviously, man. And I'll say, great, let's get you scheduled. And then you go ahead and you give them options, Tuesday or Thursday, morning or afternoon. Always give them 2 options. This is pretty standard stuff. So I hope that this has been helpful. It's really front end loaded because if you can get through this beginning section up here, the rest is pretty easy. You just need to be able to have a successful discovery call. And I went through the script explaining it in 14 minutes here. So I think you can probably get these calls done efficiently in 10 to 12 minutes. Shouldn't take you much longer than that. Just keep them moving. And remember, it's okay to cut them off. Here, just, hey, Mike, you mentioned something there. And I wanted to ask you a little bit more about it before you moved on. It's okay. It's in service of them. Remember, it's like totally okay to cut these people off. You're trying to help them. If you're cutting them off to sell them something, not okay. So remember this. This is a big question I get. Hope this has been valuable for you. See you in the next video.